Author opinion of Denis Keen at the history, geography and architecture, culture and life manners of Kazakhs in the program Discovering Kazakhstan.
In today's program, exploring Silk Road ruins, secret monasteries, and soaring waterfalls, catching your own dinner at a trout farm.
Salam, привет, and hello. I'm Denis Keen, and today on Discovering Kazakhstan, we will be discovering Tolgar, the gateway to the Alatau Mountains. Though it is now known as a modest suburb of Kazakhstan's largest city, Almaty, the town of Tolgar actually has its own rich history, dating back to its time as a major point along the Silk Road. Looming over this green town is the icy peak of Mount Tolgar, the tallest mountain in this Alatau range, and a reminder of the ecotourism opportunities that await just a short drive away. Come along as we explore the fascinating history and beautiful nature of this corner of Kazakhstan. The history of the modern-day settlement of Tolgar can be traced back to the spring of 1858, when 28 families of Siberian Cossacks arrived at the new border of the Russian Empire and founded the small village of Sofia, which would be later renamed to Tolgar in 1919. To this day, the streets of Tolgar are lined with Cossack-style homes. Log houses of 1 to 2 stories decorated with beautiful carved wooden window frames called nalichniki. At the center of any Cossack village would always be a Russian Orthodox church, and the Cathedral of St. Nicholas, with its blue onion domes bedecked in stars, has been a local landmark since 1908. Though the modern-day town of Tolgar can trace its roots back to its founding as a Cossack village, the Tolgar Valley has a much longer history of human settlement. Over a millennium ago, Persian geographers were already writing about a place here called Talkhiz. Archaeologists have since uncovered this ancient settlement and suggested that it was once a major fort and caravan stop along the Silk Road. At the entrance to the Talkhiz site, they've built a reconstruction of the city's gates. And it gives you a real feel for just how significant the city would have once been. The architecture, of course, is quite different than what we saw in the Tsarist-era neighborhood of Tolgar. After all, it's just a totally different time and culture. Here we see that the windows have these beautifully carved wooden screens with Islamic motifs, and above, arrow slits where archers would have sat with their bows waiting for any invading enemies. The reconstructed gate was built adjacent to the original fortress walls, whose earth forms are visible to this very day. It's crazy to think that this mound on which I'm standing was built from soil and stone more than a millennium ago. Within these walls was the city of Talkhiz. cobblestone road that I'm walking on now once lay under a layer of soil. But now that it's been uncovered by archaeologists, we can really imagine that this would have once carried merchants leading behind them their camels and carts full of jade and silk from the heavenly kingdom into this Silk Road town, looking for a hotel to spend the night. Scholars suggest that within the walls of Tokhiz, there were 60 city blocks whose walls can still be seen today, made of stone and mortar of clay. The alleyways of these medieval Central Asian cities are notably narrow, and it's thought that this was a defensive measure, so that any invading cavalries would find it difficult to maneuver on horseback through such a confining maze. What's remarkable is just how well the original layout of these homes has been preserved. For example, you can almost always see where there would have once been a front door. Coming in, you can see that there would be 4 to 6 rooms, a kind of open yard, and a pen where people would have kept their farm animals. The presence of pens suggests that animal husbandry was widespread here, but this was also a city of artisans and intellectuals. And one clue is a find made by archaeologists in the 1970s when they uncovered 6 chess pieces made from ivory, suggesting that this game, beloved by Kazakhstanis today, has ancient roots in the East. As you drive up out of Tolgar into the mountains, you have to make a stop here at the visitor center to the Almaty Preserve. Outside, you'll find a variety of stands telling you about the flora and fauna of the park, some useful maps, but this is just the beginning. Once you go inside, you'll see there is a fantastic nature museum. This is exquisite. I am a big fan of these kind of nature museums, having visited them in different places throughout the former Soviet Union. It's kind of a classic style where scientists back in the day used their taxidermy skills to take these wild animals and turn them into these beautiful educational showcases. Coming to this corner, the step is now leading up to the cliffs of the Alatau Mountains, and we have another kind of crowded scene here of different wild creatures you wouldn't normally see in such proximity, of course, because up here, sitting over them all, is the Birkut, the golden eagle that has long been worshipped and hunted with by Kazakh people. Underneath the Birkut, we have this owl peeking out with these beautiful orange eyes. But if there's one animal that you can't miss in this corner, it's this guy right here. His head perched on the wall, it is the saiga. It's perhaps the most famous of all ungulates in Kazakhstan. It's this funny looking creature that looks like it came from outer space. From the step up to the cliffs, we are now climbing higher and higher in elevation to the room that features the alpine scenery. And right away, you're greeted by the guardian of this museum, a large head of what locals call the maral, a kind of Eurasian red deer. Striking in size. Imagine how big this creature must be if just his head is of this proportion. I remember one time I was hiking up in the mountains outside of Almaty, going through this beautiful apple orchard, and a young Kazakh guy ran up to me and he said, "Careful, careful, kaban." And I didn't know this word. I had no idea what it was. I said, "Okay, what is a kaban?" And he says, what he wanted to show me was that these wild boars were all around this area because they love to eat the apples and the apricots that fall off these fruit trees. And you can see from the size of this thing that they can be quite dangerous if they are provoked. Here we have what's almost like a freeze frame from an action film. This cat leaping up into the air and taking a big chunk straight out of the neck of this poor antelope. But this cat is a beautiful creature. It's called the Turkestan rhys, and it's something that's quite special for Kazakhstan. Over here, we have another quite impressive predator, this bear, which is unique to specifically this corner of the Alatau Mountains, what they call the Trans-Ili Alatau. They call it the white clawed bear, because there you can see his long white talons. These kind of claws are used, of course, for defense, but maybe also to scrape at trees like these to look for some honey. As these panoramas take us higher and higher into the mountains, it's as if these animals are getting more and more sacred, because the higher you go, the more rare they are. There are Kazakhs who have lived their entire lives in the mountains and have never seen this animal, the snow leopard. It has a legendary status, and in fact, we can see it on the logo of the very Almaty refuge itself. Just looking at this creature is inspiring. You're struck by its size, but I think that this one even has to be quite young. They get a lot bigger than this. You've now entered the third and last room of this nature museum, and right away your eyes are drawn to these birds that are up here on the shelves, but don't let them distract you from the real beautiful winged creatures in this room, which are these butterflies. Just look at these gorgeous creatures. These butterflies in these displays are apparently not from Kazakhstan, but from Brazil, partially, because there was an exchange between butterfly enthusiasts once upon a time. But when we come down to here, we can see our local butterflies in shades of orange and pink. And I do have to say, in addition to being beautiful, these Lepidoptera are particularly friendly in these parts. I've noticed that when you go hiking in the mountains in Tolgar, the butterflies will fly right up to you. They're not afraid of people at all. But nevertheless, it is quite a thrill to be able to come here and see them being perfectly still, being able to observe every last beautiful detail. When we go out into the mountains today, we'll have a look out for those trees, for all these birds and creatures that we've seen in this beautiful museum. Though I do have to say, it's not always as easy to see them out in the wild. That's why it's an amazing experience to come here and see all the beautiful, painstaking work that these taxidermists and museum caretakers have put into creating this educational experience for you and for me. It really is endearing to me just how much energy the people here at the Almaty Preserve have put into making this an accessible and educational place for the local population to come and learn about the nature and the mountains here. It's an especially popular place for local school kids to visit, and when they do visit, they can't come without coming to the little garden that they've made behind the museum building. They call it Tabigat Alimi, which means the world of nature. I just find this place so charming. The amount of love and tender care that they've put into this little yard behind the museum. From the well-manicured lawn, to this nice little path that they've made, to even the decoration that they've put on the side of the building. This is a special kind of local decorative style that they call graffito, that's made out of plaster. They put different layers of plaster and scrape it away to reveal their design. In this case, it's this kind of alpine scene with fuzzy trees, almost out of a fairy tale. I am a geography dork, and if there's anything that I love more than maps, it is models. And here we have a beautiful model of the mountains that we will see in Tolgar. Apparently this model was made using data taken from satellite surveillance of the area, and you can see that it is quite detailed. All the way up to these mountain peaks, we have the statistics, the tallest one being here, Tolgar, at 5,000 meters high. You can see the rivers running through the valleys. Every river is labeled so you can know which river valley you can hike up. It's very useful for any visitor to this area just to get their orientation using this kind of bird's eye view. For Almaty, Tolgar is a relatively off the beaten path destination. And to be honest, when we came hiking here, I did not expect to find any tourists hiking through the shrubs here, but we came across two very friendly Germans, Mark and Thomas. Nice to meet you guys. Welcome to Kazakhstan. And so how about the hiking here? How have you guys found the trails? What are your impressions of Tolgar Valley scenery?
Yeah, it's, I mean, everywhere in Kazakhstan you have a great nature. We just came here yesterday evening, so we went for some short walk around, and today we went up to the waterfall, and it's really untouched nature.
Yeah.
Clean water. Yeah, and at the very hot days, it's so nice to get some cool air and fresh air.
Yeah, we're at the peak of the summer and we are all sweating like crazy, but when you get close to the rivers, when you're up in the mountains, it really does cool off quite a bit. Well, it was nice to meet you guys. Wish you the best of luck on the rest of your adventure.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah. Maybe we'll take a selfie together.
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. Actually, do you want to hold it, Thomas? You've got longer arms than me.
Yeah.
The Nature Center was totally fascinating, but visiting Tolgar is all about getting up into nature itself. One of the most popular routes takes you along a narrow path that crisscrosses over an ice-cold creek, heading higher and higher up through a narrow slot in the mountains called Monk's Gorge. The place is named after Russian Orthodox monks who fled the persecution of Bolsheviks who had come to Tolgar in the 1920s. They established a monastery in the caves along this creek before they were found and killed, their caves blown up. But the place remains a sacred place for many local people in Tolgar and the surrounding areas. With such a narrow trail and the constant creek crossings, hiking here requires your full attention. But that means before you know it, you've walked quite a way, and you can quickly reach the remnants of the monastic caves that gave Monk's Gorge its name. Wow. You know, I expected this big, gaping mouth of a cave, but this is totally different. It's this narrow little slot, and look how steep up this kind of dirt hill is here. We're gonna climb up, have a look. I trust these guys. They said they've already checked and there's no bears hibernating inside, nothing lurking in the darkness for us. Crazy. It doesn't go that far back deep, but it's super cool in here compared to the heat outside. And it's crazy to think that people could have hidden here fearing for their lives, or perhaps just seeking some kind of peace, oneness with God, whatever they were looking for. Caves like this, they do have this kind of spiritual presence. They do have a certain feeling to them that I feel right away coming in here. The other strange thing is that there's nothing alive in here. There's no plants, I don't see any insects, no bugs. It's just me and my thoughts. I keep falling behind because you know what I found here? Wild raspberry patches. And all along the path here is food, tasty, sweet little berries. You can hike along and pick them off as you move, but these guys keep calling out to me, come on Dennis, enough raspberries. But how can you resist? I mean, look at this little guy. This is so much smaller than what we sell in America, but it has 10 times the taste. Well, they often say in life that it's about the journey and not the destination. And on this trail, we've seen and learned so much, from finding new berries and berries you shouldn't eat, to learning fascinating little tidbits of local monastic history. But I do have to say that the destination beats all of that, because look at what an amazing sight this is. The Monk's waterfall itself in 2 layers, and we're at the bottom of this deep crevice. It feels like we've fallen into the middle of the earth to some kind of magical paradise. I'm gonna see if I can get a little bit close. Hey, well, I think I got the best seat in the house, right at the foot of the waterfall. The sound is deafening. I think you can hear me, but I can barely hear my own thoughts at the bottom of this thing. The air is definitely cooler here too. It's got this special kind of microclimate right in this little ridge. I think the water is gonna be freezing. Take it off my shoes and socks, and I'll go for a quick little dip, see if I can get behind that waterfall. On our journey through the country together, discovering Kazakhstan, we have seen how to fish on the scenic lakes of Uralsk and even in the surf of the Caspian. But never have we ever fished on a farm. Trout farms, believe it or not, are a popular attraction in Kazakhstan, especially in the Tolgar area. Here, basins of cold river water have been filled with this notoriously tasty fish for our recreation. If this fish looks shocked, it's because he knows that it's dinner time. If you don't have the patience to wait and catch your own trout, then maybe the sturgeon pool is just what you need. Down here we have these fish that are famous throughout Kazakhstan and indeed the world for their black caviar. But the fish themselves can be plucked out of this pool, put on a grill, and prepared for a tasty meal. Here you can just pluck a sturgeon right out of the pool, but in western Kazakhstan, local people discovered a form of fishing that's just as easy. In the winter months, they go out on the frozen rivers, drill holes, and spear the sturgeon by the thousands. The fish are in a kind of hibernating state, and catching them is a breeze. As we'll see, fishing trout is not nearly as simple. This is what a trout pool looks like. Here we can see the fresh water flowing in, having been diverted from the Tolgar River. If the water looks a bit gray and cloudy, there is a natural explanation. We've seen this before in mountain lakes and other places in Kazakhstan where the water is coming from glaciers. What happens is that the glaciers push against the mountains, grinding the rock into this kind of powder called rock flour. That rock flour is then suspended in these pools, refracting the light of the sun, giving it this unusual appearance. Do you have any advice for me? Because I've never fished before at this kind of farm.
It looks like I can't tell you any advice because I haven't caught any fish.
You've been to different trout farms before.
No,
and did you have more success?
Yeah. Then I was with my grandfather and he gave me some advices, but I already forgot them all.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was the biggest fish that you caught before?
Well, just like this.
Like that big? Okay, that's not bad.
It's medium fish.
Okay. Good luck.
Thank you.
Renting a fishing pole is quick and easy. They also give us a bucket to put our fish in once we're done. All we have to do is find a nice little spot to set up here along the basin. They give us some corn as some bait, so all we gotta do is unhook our little guy here, take a little kernel out of our tin, get some bait on there. The local trout apparently are big corn eaters. And then we're just gonna toss that guy right in. Now that it's in there, it's just a question of waiting for the fish to bite. Fishing, I've learned, is a kind of meditation. You can't be in a hurry to get your catch, and you can't get frustrated. Even on a fish farm, where the buggers are right there in the pool, taunting you with their presence, you have to just sit and wait for your moment. Oh, come here, buddy! Oh! Congratulations, you have been chosen. You are the one to be my dinner. It's so peaceful there around the fish ponds with those calming waterfalls and the bubbling brooks that it's hard to believe just over on the other side of this berm is the raging Tolgar River. And what a beautiful location to sit down and enjoy our catch. Oh, beautiful. Hello. This looks amazing, and I cannot imagine a better place to sit down and have a nice meal after a beautiful day in the Tolgar Gorge than this little hut that they've set up here. Right by the river, the gorgeous view of the mountains, and look at this little feast that they put together for us. Got a little bread basket with some Kazakh donuts called barsak. And there's the guy that we just caught not too long ago. Looks a little bit different. He looks ready to be eaten and enjoyed. So if you don't mind, I'm going to treat myself to a little trout. Until next time, salvo, baka, and goodbye.